So the robot on the left is the University of Illinois Chicago robot, and the robot on the right is the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology robot. The UI Chicago robot, I love that they've got a mural on the side of the robot. It's um, a cityscape of Chicago, I presume. So very artistic. Kudos for adding some art to your robot. But the Chicago robot, what I was going to point out before I noticed the mural just now, is the 6 wheels, and this is what in the space business we call a rocker bogie suspension system, where 2 of the wheels are on a rocker, or 4 of the 6 wheels, I guess. The 4 front wheels are on a rocker system that rocks back and forth, and then the 2 rear wheels are on what engineers call a bogie system. And look how those Chicago robots' wheels turn. So this run is obviously underway because both of these teams have left the starting area. Now it looks like South Dakota School of Mines is deploying some stuff before they head over to the digging area. The Chicago robot in the upper half of the screen is crossing across the obstacle zone. And the South Dakota robot looks like they lifted up their digging mechanism, and it looks like they also lifted up their dumping mechanism towards the rear of the robot. Meanwhile, UIC has made it to the digging area. Now this digging mechanism, basically the entire middle of the robot, oh, you can see the rocker bogie suspension system moving up and down there. That's a really nice shot of that. But you'll notice this entire kind of central section of the robot, which includes the digging mechanism and the onboard capture device, the onboard bucket, moves up and down. And now we see South Dakota School of Mines is now in their digging area. So both of these robots now in a good spot, in the appropriate spot for digging. South Dakota on the right and UI Chicago on the left. We're seeing, this is a good angle to see how full the UI Chicago's buckets are as they come upwards in front of the robot, and then they go sideways, and then they dump into an onboard hopper. The South Dakota robot on the right-hand side has made it into the digging area and has paused. And so we're waiting for the South Dakota School of Mines robot to start digging in this spot. Okay, the UIC robot has lifted up its digging implement just a little bit and has started up their digging again. And now they've lowered it. And it got bound up a little bit. So that's probably why they lifted it earlier. So it's possible, I'm just guessing, but it's possible that they have dug down far enough that they're actually hitting some of the rocks that are really the whole point of digging here in this competition is to bring up those rocks, that gravel. So they're either hitting some really hard crushed volcanic rock, or they're actually hitting the gravel that we've buried beneath the surface, which is really what they need to bring up. It's the gravel is what they need to bring up. That's what they get the points for. None of these robots get any points for bringing back this very fine dust. This crushed volcanic rock isn't worth anything. It's actually in the way. It's overburden. It's wasted material. I just realized this is really great. The horizontal part of this digging mechanism, um, I think it's I think it's getting shorter. Maybe it's a optical illusion. What I think is that the vertical portion actually is actually being lengthened while they dig. There's a plunger that's actually changing the length of the vertical section. So the vertical section is getting going deeper and deeper, and this horizontal section that's at the top of the robot is getting smaller and smaller. That is a really interesting design. They have to, in order for this mechanism to work efficiently, they have to maintain proper tension on the belt while it's changing. Yeah, look, you can see um, the mechanism that has extended there. You know, it's like a pneumatic cylinder or something similar. Could be, it's probably completely electric. It's probably not pneumatic at all. Most of the actuators on these robots are electric linear actuators, because that's what you would use on board a lunar robot. You'd be highly unlikely. Oh, look at that. They're going back and I don't know if they're digging a second hole or if they're purposely going back through the overburden in case a rock fell through. Meanwhile, South Dakota School of Mines on the right side of the screen, they've lowered their digging mechanism, but I'm not sure we've seen it rotate yet. It's possible I missed it because I was focused so much on the Chicago robot on the other side of the arena. But it doesn't look dirty, so that kind of implies that it hasn't really been able to do any digging yet. It's early though. We're 6.5 minutes in, 8.5 minutes remaining. So still early enough in this run for South Dakota School of Mines students to figure out the problem, correct it, and get some mining going on here. The University of Illinois Chicago robot, their internal hopper obviously has some sort of a mesh such that it allows the fine dust particles to flow right back down onto the ground beneath the robot, which we can see clearly from this camera angle. And so it's only holding on to and carrying the gravel, the rocks that are going to score them points. Now, as they get deeper, let's look carefully at these buckets that are coming upwards and see if we can see any rocks or gravel in them. We're about 8 minutes in, about 7 minutes remaining in this run. The final run for these two teams of this competition this year. Oh, you could see the tension on the belt just loosened up there. That's something that this team's going to need to be careful of. If that belt gets too loose, it's going to lose some efficiency. Something may even break. Okay, both of the robots decided to go back to the lander. The mobility of the Chicago robot is really great so far from what we've seen, as far as its turning and driving straight. Okay, South Dakota School of Mines robot drove over the berm, did not have any issues. So that robot doesn't have any mobility problems either. Go. This view showing both of the robots in the obstacle area. So my suspicion is that the South Dakota School of Mines robot just fell over. My suspicion was that since they were not able to get their digging mechanism to run, that they were either one, just playing, just because they knew that they were dead in the water, or two, they were actually using the rocks in the obstacle area to try and get their machine broken loose or working. Let's watch UI Chicago offload their haul of rocks onto the lander. You can still see some fine particles falling through their mesh, and running their excavation system. Their belt's a little loose. I don't know if they can see that very well, but their belt is starting to bind up a little bit because the tension has been lost. But running that belt is potentially making some rocks fall out of their system. You can see the students. You can see the students' body language there. Those University of Illinois students on the other side of the glass there are probably yelling very loudly to tell the robot what to do and what not to do. But those students are not the ones driving the robot, and the students driving the robot cannot see those students on the other side of the glass. So the students that are there in the arena are not able to help the students that are in the control room. And so the control room students who are driving these robots, assuming that they're manually driving, which that's just an assumption, assuming the students are manually driving this robot, they really don't get any outside help. Nobody is talking to them on the radio telling them what's going on in the arena. They have to look at the data from the robot itself. 3.5 minutes remaining. Are they going back to that same hole? Looks like it. They have to depend on data coming directly from the robot, and optionally, they can depend on one camera view provided by NASA, which is a simulating a lander camera view. So UI Chicago has come back to do a little bit more digging. Hopefully they can get a little bit deeper and get some good-sized gravel rock into their hopper. They don't need a whole lot of time to drive back over to the lander. We saw how quickly they were able to get back to the lander just a minute ago, and their dumping mechanism was very quick also. I'm not sure it lifted up enough to really fully empty out any rocks that might have been in there. 2.5 minutes remain. Meanwhile, the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology robot partially fell over. It has this robot has a pivot between the front wheels and the rear wheels, and that pivot helps them keep all four wheels on the ground, even in uneven ground. But in this case, that ended up working against them a little bit, especially with their digging mechanism up in the air, high up in the air like that, caused them to be a little bit top heavy. Now with 1:40 left, let's see if the University of Illinois Chicago robot is able to unload some rocks onto the lander. Yeah, I feel like it needs to go up higher than that in order for gravity. Okay, it is going higher. In order for gravity to really do its work and get these rocks that might be hiding inside. The fact that they're running their belt should help wiggle things and vibrate things and help get those rocks out of there. Oh, gently slamming into the lander probably knocked a few rocks out. Need to be careful that you don't that you don't do any damage to the lander, because the judges might judge that harshly. We see a few rocks coming out. Those rocks that are lighter colored, almost white, are the gravel material that is worth points in this competition. We have 30 seconds left for this UI Chicago team to try and completely unload their hopper. I feel like if it was designed to go up a little bit higher at a little bit higher of an angle, maybe all the material would be able to fall out. Although I may be wrong. You got to wonder how much, since these onboard, the students are excited. The students are excited. Some stuff must have fallen out. Maybe a big rock did.